Today we're going to be talking about downed firefighter assessment and victim rescue. It's a well-documented fact that in every instance that we've had a lost or trapped firefighter, communication has been an issue. Communication should be precise and to the point between both command and our interior operations, as well as strict and to the point as in not running off in sentences. Try to get your communications exactly what you're trying to state. So one of the things that can aid in your communications is, especially on full PPE, on air with your masks, keeping the mic away from your voice box. That'll prevent feedback and squelch in the mic and over the air. One of the things I like to do is I'll depress the mic, take in a deep breath, and then say what I'm trying to say. This will keep me calm, as well as allow the mic airspace to open up for the traffic to run through. Due to the fact that we're already in a high-stress environment, by keeping your communications clear and precise, taking the time to relay those will help keep you calm and collective, as well as making your communications more efficient, as well as your operation more efficient. The use of acronyms help speed up your communications by giving precise information that was requested, such as the CAN, CARA, or PAR. One of the acronyms I like to use is PPN and A. Personnel, progress, position, needs, and then AIR, of course. This acronym actually helps me relate what information I feel would be pertinent for any communications. So during a lost or trapped firefighter, the acronym LUNAR is always utilized. Location, unit, name, air, and resources needed. With the LUNAR acronym, this helps, especially if there's potential for multiple firefighters, if we've had a significant event where potentially a company is lost, if there is an activation of the RIT or RIC team, that if they come across a firefighter, we can actually identify whether or not that firefighter is actually the firefighter we're looking for, or do we have an additional firefighter missing. When a Mayday is initiated for a lost or trapped firefighter and the LUNAR acronym is utilized, information will be given from the command officer to the RIC or RIC teams. That information should include the apparatus that personnel was on, what operation they were conducting, what was their last possible known location, and any other pertinent information, whether it be the type of event that was possibly involved in. This allows the teams who are going to be effecting the rescue to actually formulate that plan and ensure that they can provide the most effective rescue possible in the most efficient manner. So once the RIT teams have been activated and we've come across a downed firefighter, there's key information that needs to be addressed. What is the name of the firefighter? Is it the actual firefighter from the initial Mayday call, or do we come across another firefighter that is it going to be another incident altogether? 2, what is the extent of his or her injuries, if any? And what is their air status? The air status is very important because that's going to establish what type of extrication plan we are going to put in effect. Some additional notes for when assessing a downed firefighter: you should have a systematic approach. A systematic approach, like either starting from the head to toe, will enable you to have a more efficient plan for assessing your firefighter and ensure steps aren't missed. So starting from a systematic approach, I'm going to start at the head. One of the first things I should identify is the name on the back of the helmet, because that will be indicated as in the LUNAR that was expressed from command. I'll look at the front panel on the helmet, because that should tell me which apparatus or station he's out of. Therefore, again, reiterifying what was said to the LUNAR. If the pass alarm is sounding, first thing I'm going to grab his shoulder, his right shoulder strap, work my hand down it, especially in a dark environment where I can't see. I'll come across the pass device and silence it. If this is another pack which is on the left-hand side and you're aware of that, you just move yourself over across his chest and reach over and turn it off. Next, I'll come to this chest strap. I'm going to DC it. If we decide to do a pack drag, I don't want that thing coming up and choking the downed firefighter as we're trying to extricate him. I'll continue to move down, assessing his extremities and body as I come down. As I come to his strap, I'm going to extend it, come to his waist belt, and DC it. I'll keep it in my hand and extend that out and reach down below. I like to put my knee on it, therefore, or I know where it's at. So when I come to package him now, as I finish his assessment, I can therefore put him into a modified harness with his pack. I'll continue down to his extremities, checking for injuries. If I don't find anything, I'm also looking for any debris that's on him, whether it would be from a structural collapse or what have you, if I need additional resources to extricate the downed firefighter. With that strap, I'll come to his leg. I'll lift it up. I'll come in between them, so now it's on my shoulder. And I'm going to reach for his other strap. This is where it kind of gets uncomfortable for him, but this is what's going to help me if I go to extricate him. I'll take both seat belts, connect them together. So when I do drag, now it's dragging from his hips, not off his shoulders. And I'm not basically ripping the pack off of him. Now he's packaged and ready for extrication. Once this is done, I'm also, as soon as I identify the downed firefighter, I'm going to communicate that right away to the rescue group leader and say, yes, we do have that firefighter that was involved in that lunar. Now I'm ready to grab and extricate. Another trick of the trade I've learned over the years is called chalking the body. For this evolution, you need a 22-foot loop. They're fairly cheap. You can keep it on your rig as part of your rig cache, or some people like myself, I like to keep it on my person. For this evolution, you can do it single man or two man. I'm going to show it single man. Generally, when we're operating, we're going to have multiple people as part of the RIT team, so the evolution should go fairly smooth. When we come across our downed firefighter and figure we have to package them, the reason I like to do chalking the body is it helps me maneuver the victim for extrication, and it's easier on my body and my workload that I have to perform. If it's a smoky environment and it's very hard to see where his outline is, I'll take the loop and start at his head and just position it around. And once I capture it, I can now straddle him and work my way down. I know I've encompassed his body. If I have somewhat visibility, or I'm able to ascertain at least his outline with maybe my helmet light or a box light that we're carrying inside, then I can just throw it around him. Once I get it around him, I'm going to position him and slide the webbing underneath his legs, trying to make it high into his hips, because ultimately the goal is to capture his hips as much as possible. I'll take the loop and grab the ends and start feeding it in. And now the goal is to capture his waist first. So I'll work the webbing so it starts working down his body. And this is where your partner may be helping you to position Once I felt I got a pretty good package set, I'll set the loops out. I'll move behind him and lift him up. Once I get him up, I'll position myself to hold him, and I'm just going to start tightening this webbing. Once I feel it secure and snug, I'll take a carabiner, throw it onto the loops, and now I'm just going to spin until it becomes tight to the pack. I'll spin it as far as I can, for as much as I can, because ultimately we want to take up as much room and ensure that we're encompassing his hips. If I have a truckman's belt, I'll connect it to it. If I'm just wearing an SCBA pack, I'll throw it into the waistband of it itself. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use my duty belt here. I'll click it in. Now when I stand up, I'm taking up his weight on my hips versus me just on my arms. So when I go to move him, now everything's on my hips versus me trying to muscle him. If I have another firefighter, he can grab the legs, and now we've taken even more of the friction from the ground off, and we'll move a lot more efficient and effectively out of the hazard zone. The other thing about this type of operation, or at least this package, if we are planning on doing a vertical extrication out of a window from a high point, I can take this component with these loops, grab his arms, with that same carabiner, I'm going to connect it into it, spin it till it's tight, and now I have completely encompassed him into this package here. So now when he goes vertical, it's going to lift him as well as keeping him in that package, and out safely he'll go. So if all you have is an 8-foot loop, a really simple evolution you can do is just girth hitching the shoulders. Basically it's acting like another DRD, especially in conjunction with the DRD. If you're going to drag, that may help you, especially if two firefighters are dragging. It'll separate you two, and therefore you're not fighting each other as you're going down a hallway trying to drag a single person down. It seems to be in most instances when we're trying to extricate, especially firefighters, since we do have so much gear and so many hang-up points, starting to stagger ourselves to make our egress a lot easier. Another tidbit to help is, even if you have one dragging from the shoulders, whether it's with the DRD, from the shoulder straps, girth hitching the shoulders, and the second firefighter is at the hips, just especially if you're going around corners, to maneuver him from left to right, whether if you're making a right turn around a corner, you're going to start pulling to the left to help him swing around that and not bunching him up into the corner. That seems to be always big hang-ups when we do RIT drills and extrication drills for our firefighters. This is just one way to accomplish a downed firefighter rescue. It's up to you to take this knowledge, apply it, mold it to what best suits you. Hopefully you never have to use it, but if you ever do, at least it's here for you. It's a very cheap and effective way to rescue a downed firefighter, or a victim for that matter. So now that we've seen it done with a downed firefighter, let's put this in an aspect of using a downed victim, especially an unconscious victim that can be an added mush of adult weight. Especially in the evening times when we respond to a fire, they've succumbed to smoke, unconscious, in their pajamas, or sometimes even less. No actual holds for us to extricate them with. By doing this using this webbing to wrap them and create that package for extrication, it'll enable you to either reach your point via the door or set them up for an elevated rescue. So again, here we have a down victim. Sometimes they're not always found on their back. They could be on their stomach, could be balled up. First thing we should do is lay them out on their back for ease of operation. Again, we're going to be working in a pair, so this is where your buddy can help out, and it speeds up the process. Now, with a 22-foot loop is great for your firefighters, because we're carrying all that extra gear, we create that extra space. We have our packs on, that takes up space. So sometimes, especially if you have a smaller victim, an elderly woman, a small man for that matter, it may seem like you have a lot of extra webbing. So what you can do is you can always tie it off at one point, create a little girth hitch into it, and take up some of that, or you can have another piece of webbing that is very easy to keep in your pocket turnouts. This one here is a 16-foot loop, pre-sewn. Fits very easy in the turnout pocket. and you can do a lot of things with it. But just for the operational purpose, we'll use the same webbing just so you can see the difference in how much webbing you'll have in excess. So first thing again, lay it out. Now again, if it's a smoky environment and it's hard to ascertain where the victim is for everything, I can always slide it around his head, bring it to his shoulders, and start working it down his body, creating that outline. And again, if I'm on one side and I have my partner, he can just help me and mirror me on the other side. So once we get it all situated around him, we'll bring the loop up underneath his legs. Remember, we want to get it high into the underneath the legs as possible. We'll pull our loop and we'll grab. Let's just start cinching it, sliding down their body, and now I've already created the first portion, which is a great seat harness, basically. So as I sit those down, I'm going to come up behind him and lift him up. If I had a partner, I would just have him lift him up. And once he's there with holding the victim up, I just hand him the loops. And that makes, especially in a smoky environment where it's real dark, we don't lose the webbing. So I seat him up. Now you can see I have a really good package. But again, normally I'd have a pack right here. So when I throw the carabiner in and spin down, I have to take up a lot of webbing. And it'll start balling up. The tighter the better, because again, once I click that in, I want to take his weight and put it on my hips. So with this carabiner, again, you stick it in your loops, you're tightening it down. You want it, if the victim was conscious, he would be complaining a little bit because this is tight. Again, if I'm in turnouts, I'll either have a truck belt or I'll have just my SCBA harness. I can click this into that for the purpose of this video. Just going to use my duty belt here. So now when I stand up, I have him. Now again, if once we extricated him to dragging him, say, towards a window, and I need to create that high point again, just take these loops, grab his arms, and with this excess here, I can either tie it off into a knot to make sure I capture his shoulders, and so he's not slipping out, and therefore we don't drop him, because that would be bad. Or I can just spin it down. So now if we were going to extricate him from a window, from a high point, say a ladder, and wanted to do a high pick, now he's fully encompassed into this webbing. His shoulders are packaged in, his hips are in. It's basically a full body harness. We often get asked if we'd alter our webbing package for a down injured firefighter victim or a down civilian victim. We would not. Ultimately, the priority is to extricate them from this environment they're in. That will ultimately save their life. The injury becomes secondary. So a lot of firefighters carry a standard, whether it's an 8-foot loop or roughly 8 feet total in length, tied into a loop or maybe pre-sewn. Generally, we use this on the fireground for many uses. It's 101 uses. Most common is used for moving of a large diameter hose, girth hitched around it, thrown over your shoulder. But when it comes to victim rescue, there's a very easy application for this. It's basically creating what we all have on our turnouts, known as a DRD. It's basically a girth hitch around the shoulders, and I'll show that to you now. So again, if we come up to a victim, you pull out your 8-foot loop. You just basically going to throw it around their shoulder area, making sure you encompass their arms. Now the important part on this is where this loop ends up. You don't want this loop to end up here at the throat, because when we drag, we start pulling down, we don't want to be choking our victim prior to us extricating them. So if we can, we want to move it to behind their head. Now we just created a way for us to drag and pull them utilizing the webbing. With the strap directly under their neck, as I lift up, it keeps their head off the ground. So as I'm dragging them, now I don't have to worry about smacking their head onto any obstacles or kicking them in the head. And this is what I mean when I talk about setting up the webbing in the wrong spot. If I pull, and now I have that strap, which is supposed to be tightening down, now right at their neckline, as I'm pulling on it, it's actually driving that into their throat, which is going to occlude their airway. Yes, they're probably already unconscious, but that should be no excuse for us to do this to a victim. So another use for the webbing, especially when we're trying to extricate them out of a window, maybe for a ladder rescue or a high point rescue, we can use these as creating handles, especially for when the victims are a civilian and we don't have that many handholds for them. We can create our own utilizing these. Even if they're 8-foot pieces, it works just as well. So once we've brought our victim to the window, whether we dragged him, we're just manhandling him, or we use the webbing to extricate him to that window, to lift him for ease of operations, what we're going to do is take our webbing and slide it underneath his shoulders and right at his hips. And my partner here is going to help me with that. Let's slide this down. And we'll take that one, second piece, and just do the same thing with it. And we'll just take it straight to his shoulders. You got it down to his hips. Okay? So now that we get ready to lift him, say that the firefighter is ready to receive him at the window. Now as we lift together, 1, 2, 3, we're able to lift him up to the window a lot easier than trying to just manhandle him with our hands. Especially in the gloves, with firefighter gloves on, it's not that simple. Webbing is an underappreciated tool, but the nice thing about it is usually you already have it with you, and it's very cheap to acquire if you do not. So remember, you're going to be doing these evolutions in a smoky environment. You're going to have high stressors from heat and exhaustion. It's up to you to take this knowledge and apply it back at your fire station to become efficient. So when you do have to apply it in a real-world environment, you can do it efficiently and safely, and ultimately save the lives of whether it's your friend or civilian. I can't stress enough how important training is. Whether you're paid or volunteer, you must train as if your life depends on it, because it does.